55. My family still works hard every day to ensure fresh quality cuts of beef, pork, and poultry. How about a tasty T-bone, ribeye, or New York strip steak? But to order at Kaufman's Meeting Place. Just look for the signs near the intersection of US 1 and I-20 in Lexington. Call us at 356-0076 to place your order. Kaufman's Meeting Place, when you want the very best your money can buy.
The lights are off. Everything is quiet.
Is Sports Talk with Phil Kornblut, Chris Bergen, and Pat Daniel. Sports Talk is heard across the state on radio affiliates of the Sports Talk Media Network and is streaming live on SportsTalkSC.com, as well as Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. The South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number to call in is 888-898-2525. That's 888-898-2525. Now, here are Phil, Chris, and Pat with tonight's edition of Sports Talk.
Welcome into a Friday night edition of Sports Talk SC here in Columbia, South Carolina. This is Pat Daniel filling in for host Phil Kornblut. For anybody out there who has used air travel lately, especially the last few years, last few months, I bet you'll understand. It has been an absolute nightmare. Phil has been traveling from Columbia up to Syracuse. He has had planes, trains, and automobiles. He has had flights canceled today, switched airports. He is currently triumphantly making his way from the airport to the hotel over in Syracuse, where he will be joining us shortly. Fingers crossed. We have a jam-packed show tonight here on Sports Talk where we'll preview USC at Tennessee, Clemson at Syracuse, among some of the other games. The game day game of the week is, of course, Notre Dame at Duke. We'll make sure to touch on that a little bit. Potentially a hostile environment in Durham. Who knows? We'll see. And also, we'll continue to discuss whether Clemson will stay or leave the ACC. And we'll also have a full deck of great guests lined up throughout the program in just a few minutes. First up, on deck, we'll have David Shelton will join us from Charleston to preview tonight's high school football around the state. Then we'll move on to the football filibuster featuring former Governor Jim Hodges and current Attorney General Alan Wilson. We'll discuss our picks for the weekend's college games. Then welcome gambling expert Lee Sterling for his Sterling picks of the week. Jeff Owens will tell us all about the weekend in NASCAR, followed by George Bryan and Robbie Thames for birdies, bogeys, and biceps, joined live from Rome, Italy at the Ryder Cup by our very own MJ Ward. I'll do my best to fit recruiting in somewhere along the way. No promises, Phil. Sorry, not sorry. As well as some of your phone calls. Maybe we'll even bring back my personal favorite segment where we pit two of you rival callers against each other live on the program. Last time we had Gamecock Larry battling Tiger Brian. I thought it was spectacular. Maybe some folks disagree. Whatever. We might resurrect that tonight. Producer extraordinaire Josh Cohen is filling my role tonight on the other side of the table, and he'll be happy to answer your phone calls at 888-898-2525. We'll try to get a few of you in here tonight. Again, jam-packed show. That number one more time, 888-898-2525. Shout out Gamecock and Sports Talk legend Rick Sanford there with the assist on the phone number. Now let's get this thing started. We also have Kevin Cohen here. Most of you are probably more aware of him during the day, talking news, talking politics, but this man's blood bleeds Detroit Lions football. I'd love to at least hear a little bit from him about his victory last night over the Green Bay Packers. Maybe he has some thoughts on Jared Goff firing off some hilarious post-game comments at Ryan Fitzpatrick, saying that he's not a quote-unquote poor man's Patrick Mahomes or whatever it was he said. Jared Goff certainly fired back, and as a Panthers fan, I'm a little jealous, and I love to see it.
Well, first of all, good evening.
Hey, Kev.
Thanks for letting me hang out with you a little bit here. It's fun to be talking a little sports, take the political hat off, and hang out a little sports action for you. I'm excited about this weekend. Obviously, college football, some great games, and certainly the Carolina game is one that I think this is another one of those measuring stick moments for South Carolina, Patrick. I think that's you go on the road in the SEC. Obviously, people are talking, oh my gosh, 100 and some odd thousand people in Neyland Stadium. They're not going to be any more intimidated at that they were, and they came out and absolutely dominated the first half in Athens. So anybody who's worried about them not being ready for the scene, that's absurd. I mean, they were ready for the scene in a crazy Athens against the number one team in America, at least for the first half. I think the real mystery here is which Clemson team shows up at Syracuse. I mean, which team do we see? Do we see the team that has been able to put up a pretty good offensive rhythm at times, or do we see a team that basically is self-destructive? Something that in the Dabo era was pretty much eliminated. I mean, they might have lost a game here or there, but they never lost games because they beat themselves. And they're doing things the last couple losses where they've beat themselves.
They have.
So that to me is going to be the real couple questions, that we're going to look for with Carolina. Can they hold up on the offensive line with Clemson? Can they not place? Because again, is this your grandfather's Syracuse? Which Syracuse are we going to see? Is it a Syracuse that's played nobody that really matters so far? So as a result, we don't really know if they're a good undefeated football team, or is it a Syracuse that's licking their chops seeing a Clemson team that's ripe for the taking? So I'm excited about the games. As for America's team, the Detroit Lions.
America's team.
Well, of course, really, actually, Earth's team. If we're going to be honest about it, let's go ahead and just say everybody else is jumping on the Lion bandwagon. That was a fun game last night, especially the first half. Leave it to Phil to say, "Oh, I'm stuck on an airplane. I can't do the show." Leave it to Phil to go run and hide when he knew he would have to face me. After all the years he abused me with Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers, just destroying the Lions. Now, Lions have won 4 in a row against the Packers. So anyway, I'm glad to be hanging out. Yeah, including in Lambeau the last 2 times. So I appreciate you letting me hang out with you for a little while. I know you've got a jam-packed show, but it's obviously this is going to be a fun football weekend.
Love it. Can't wait. And now touching back on, let's start with that South Carolina at Tennessee game. You hit on a couple big things. I just want to add more to it. Currently, Tennessee's a 12-point favorite, or at least that's the line. I think it's skewed a little bit, but that's the line we've been basing our picks off all week. Got to start with the offense for the Gamecocks. Spencer Rattler and Xavier Legette have been one of the best quarterback-wide receiver combos in the country so far this season. Rattler's 10th in the nation with over 1,200 yards passing on 74% completions through 4 games, and has 7 touchdowns to only 2 interceptions on the season, with both of those coming, I don't want to say garbage time, but late in that game in Athens while they were trying to mount a frantic comeback against the 2-time defending national champion Bulldogs. It's hard to hold those against him. Yes, I know they still matter. You play all minute, every minute of the game. But he was trying to fit into some narrow windows, again, trying to frantically lead his team back in a hostile environment. Whereas Xavier Legette leads the nation in receiving yards. Let me repeat that. Gamecock player Xavier Legette leads the entire nation in receiving yards with 556 and 3 touchdowns through those first 4 games. The question marks on offense are clearly both the running game and the offensive line, which you touched on a bit. Will the Gamecocks continue to feed Mario Anderson, the Newberry transfer, that really had his coming out party last week when he ran the ball 26 times against Mississippi State en route to 88 yards? Or will we see the Gamecocks rushing attack that combined for only 100 yards in the first 3 games of the season? As for the offensive line, the Gamecocks have allowed 17 sacks through 4 games, 5th worst in the country, while on the other side of the ball, Tennessee's defense has recorded 16 sacks on the season, 2nd best in the nation, or tied for 2nd best, I should say. For Carolina to win, the Gamecocks need the running game to get going early. This will help keep Tennessee's defense honest, open up the play-action pass, and, of course, they need to score early to take those 100,000-plus Vol fans out of the game as best as possible and as early as possible. Kevin, you hit the nail on the head, though. Is this really going to be any more intimidating than Athens? Just because you have a few more fans, I don't know. Personally, I like to think with it being a night game as opposed to that Georgia game. What was that, 3:30 game, I think?
Yeah.
So that wasn't quite as late. Maybe everybody's not quite as thoroughly lubricated, if you catch my drift there. The fans will be a little more loud. I still think back to, no, this is not Tennessee, Alabama. But just the scenery from last year, that night game, up there, the Tennessee fans are really, really into their team. They finally have a decent team after so many bad years to get behind. I think the Gamecocks really need to score early and often to try to take them out of there. The offensive line must keep Spencer Rattler upright, and they must create running lanes for Mario Anderson to run through. If Tennessee is able to live in the backfield, this may be a long night, similar to the season opener against UNC. We all know Tennessee is going to come out angry, fired up, and looking for revenge from last year's beatdown in Columbia. But I'll tell you, Kevin, I'm still taking the point in USC to cover. I'm not sure if I'm going to go all the way as to say the Gamecocks win, but I do think it's going to be a one-possession ball game, and it's going to come down to late in the 4th quarter. What about you?
Well, I've also taken Carolina to cover, and I look at this game pretty simple. You mentioned a lot of the keys, Patrick. You got to keep Spencer clean.
Yeah.
If they can keep Rattler clean, that's a huge thing because they're not going to run the football for 150, 170 yards. This is going to be a team that uses the pass to set up the run against any decent opponent. And you're talking about a team in Tennessee that does get after the quarterback. They bring a lot of different looks. I think it's going to be very interesting to see if a beaten up offensive line for Carolina is able to keep, to use your word, Spencer Rattler upright, because that's going to be a huge thing. I don't expect to see any miracles. I mean, you were talking about Anderson. What was his numbers last week? He had 88 yards. You said 20-something carries. It's still not. I mean, good, but it's still not even 4 yards a carry.
No.
So let's not make it into something. They're not a running football team. That is a huge weakness on this team. The best thing they could do would be to run the football, because you didn't even get in yet to talking about the Tennessee offense, how fast, how explosive they can be. And so you really don't want to get into a shootout with Tennessee, but I don't see how they beat them unless they get into a shootout. I really don't. I don't see this being a low-scoring game. So I think, are you going to see the same game as last year? No, I don't think you'll see the same thing as last year. But at the same time, there's no reason to think that if they can just protect and give Rattler some time, I see good things happening for Carolina. On a secondary, because let's face it,
They are beat up.
They're beat up, and they got abused last week by Rogers and Mississippi State. So what are we going to see from Joe Milton and that fast offense that Tennessee loves to run? What are we going to see? Can the Gamecocks make Tennessee drive 80 yards, 70 yards, and not do it in 3 plays, but do it in 14, 15 plays? If they can make them go for drives, I like their chances. But if they give up the big plays, I think it's going to be a long night in Knoxville.
Okay, moving on to Clemson at Syracuse, where the Tigers are favored by 6.5. For whatever reason, Syracuse head coach Dino Babers, his teams have always seemed to give Clemson a heck of a ball game. Dabo Swinney maybe 6-1 against Babers, but 4 of those games were one-score ball games. 2 seasons ago, Cuse missed a game-tying field goal late in the fourth quarter, and then last season, Clemson benched starter DJ Uiagalelei for, at the time, freshman Cade Klubnik, trailed 21-10 in the fourth quarter. Then the Tigers used a 17-point fourth quarter to come back and win 27-21. I reported after the game, I was up there, that Q's starting quarterback Garrett Schrader, arguably their best player along with the running back last year, he was in a walking boot, seen on the sideline after the game. So he was basically playing his the entire second half on one leg. Now, look, a win is a win is a win is a win. But wins over Syracuse have certainly not been gimmies for Swinney and the Tigers. Now, Garrett Schrader is back at quarterback for Syracuse. He's a seasoned vet at this point. His team is 4-0. But I expect defensive coordinator for Clemson, Wes Goodwin, to bring heavy pressure all game, forcing Schrader into miscues. He's already tossed 3 interceptions on the season, so I expect the Clemson secondary to ball hawk all game long. I expect them to jump routes. I think they will be very aggressive. This is going to either result in interceptions or maybe long touchdowns for the Orange. And that may end up deciding the game, along with, of course, the turnover margin, which we've heard Tiger head coach Dabo Swinney harp on all season. Schrader is also the team's leading rusher, averaging 7 yards per carry, but Babers may want to be strategic with his designed runs so as to avoid another injury like in this game last year, because again, that was when the tide changed. Syracuse had Clemson down for the count, and then once he got injured with his foot, he wasn't able to run as much. He became more of a statue in the pocket. That was when the Tigers mounted their comeback, along with the emergence of Cade Klubnik. I'm expecting a close game in the former Carrier Dome, but ultimately Clemson wins the turnover margin, finishes in the red zone, and uses a heavy dose of Will Shipley and Phil Maffa to walk out of Syracuse with, in my mind, 31-21 victory, give or take. What do you think?
I look at this football game, and you were talking about Dabo's record overall. We're talking about Clemson's golden years that Syracuse almost knocked him off. I'm not talking about this year's version or even last year's version. We're talking about a couple of those games were during the actual golden years, where we were talking championship level Clemson and not championship level Syracuse. So this series could be very even or even in favor of Syracuse. One bounce here, one bounce there. They match up for some reason, like you said at the outset, Patrick. They match up really well with Clemson for one reason or another. I don't know. Maybe this is their Super Bowl type game, but whatever the case, they do match up apparently well. And you'd almost feel like karma or something is on their side eventually. When is it going to even out? everything you said analysis-wise makes a lot of sense to me. I think there's too much speed on the Clemson defense. I think that they do win on the turnover battle. And if you win on the turnover battle on the road, I think you have good things happen for you.
All good stuff, Kevin. All right, we're going to slide out for our first break of the night here, and we're going to come back with friend of the program, David Sheldon, who's going to help preview the high school scoreboard show later on tonight, but also just preview all the different high school games around the state. Feel free to join the show and call us toll-free at 888-898-25. Again, that's 888-898-2525. This is Pat Daniel, and Sports Talk SC will be right back with you after these short messages from our sponsors.
George Bryant here for Tsunami Bar Sports, and some say the fun is in the winning. I say the fun is in the training. And Tsunami Robbie, what do you say?
George, we all know you get more done when you're having fun. This technology is different. It's engaging, but it's also a lot of fun to use.
Hi, this is Phil Kornblut. Be sure to click on the digital ad on SportsTalkSC.com and get 5% off any Tsunami Bar order using promo code BBB5. Don't wait, order today.
Your home is where your memories live. It's where you laugh and where you love. We understand the importance of the valuables under your roof, tangible and intangible alike. So no matter what's around the corner, we'll be there, offering you and your family the support that's made Farm Bureau Insurance a trusted name for nearly 70 years. You deserve more. You deserve a promise. Learn more at scfbins.com.
Call me, Alex Satterfield, at 803-749-9171 for all of your Midlands insurance needs.
This year's Carolina and Clemson Jackpot $5 scratch-off tickets give you a chance to win up to $200,000, whether you're a Gamecock or a Tiger. It's Palmetto Series time, so show your school spirit, feel that team pride, and get your tickets for a chance to win up to $200,000. Yeah, baby! As you know, in this state, winning the Palmetto Series does matter that much. See SCEducationLottery.com for odds and details.
If an insurance company is there to sell you insurance, shouldn't it also be there to service it with real people? At Farm Bureau Insurance, we're here to help with experienced agents ready to provide personal service when you need it most. Call today for your free no-obligation review for auto, home, and life insurance that's custom tailored just for you.
Whether it's home, auto, or life insurance, Buddy Bridges and Farm Bureau Insurance have the right policy for you. Call Buddy today in Lawrence County at 864-923-2174.
South Carolina Farm Bureau Mutual Insurance Company, Southern Farm Bureau Casualty Insurance Company, Southern Farm Bureau Life Insurance Company, Jackson, Mississippi.
Dumpster Plus is your solution to a more cost-effective and professional work site. Dumpster Plus provides a roll-off dumpster and porta-john in one. Give them a call at 803-500-5094 and ask them about two services for the price of one. It's one call, one delivery, two services. Locally owned and operated in Columbia, and that means you'll talk to a real live local person, ready to get what you need with a 24-hour turnaround guaranteed. Whether your worksite is residential or commercial, big or small, near or far, you'll save money with Dumpster Plus. Waste management solutions never look so good. Call Dumpster Plus at 803-500-5094. That's 803-500-5094 for Dumpster Plus.
Welcome back into Sports Talk. This is Pat Daniel filling in for Phil Kornblut. Chris has got the night off as well, so it's just going to be us flying solo tonight. But Phil might join us here in a little while. We will see. He ran into some flight issues up in the New York area. I'd imagine some of you have been through that recently yourselves. Anybody that's been traveling domestically, it has not been fun. Now it's time for our high school scoreboard segment here, where we're going to preview all the different games around the state. And for that, Phil likes to call him Bib, best in business. I'm still not sure or not whether David actually likes that nickname, so I'm just going to call you David. So welcome into the program, David Sheldon. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Hey, Pat. Yeah. It's Bill. So when Bill says something, I just laugh at it. But whatever.
I feel you, man. That's why I'm Pat Daniel and not Patrick Daniel. I'm just rolling with the punches. It all works. So, David, where are you tonight?
I am at Fort Dorchester. They're playing Ashley Ridge, big county rivalry. Ashley Ridge, undefeated. Hasn't played a really tough schedule. A lot of the teams that they've beaten have not won very many games. So this, Fort D is 2-2, but I played a really good schedule. Lost to Gaffney last week by a touchdown. So big test for Ashley Ridge. They're undefeated, and if they could win this game, I think you could get them ranked in the top 10. But this is definitely going to be the biggest challenge they've had to this point.
So you're going to be at quite a ball game tonight, it sounds like. Were you expecting a pretty good crowd there?
Yeah, I would suspect between these two schools, they're county rivals, and Fort had a really good crowd last week, and they played Gaffney here, and Gaffney traveled very well. Of course, Gaffney is Gaffney; they always travel well. But yeah, I would suspect they'll be, close to capacity. It should be a good night.
Good. Okay. Well, what are some of the other kind of marquee matchups in your view around the state tonight? And with those games, who are you maybe giving the edge to?
Well, I think the two games that have a lot of attention around the state, one in the PD is South Lawrence and Hartsville. That's two top 10 teams. Hartsville's got one loss. South Lawrence is ranked number 1. I think Hartsville's ranked 4th in 4A. It's a region opener. So, the winner gets a leg up on the rest of the region. But they're big rivals and two very good teams. I kind of like South Lawrence in this game. But this is one of those that are it's really hard to project because you don't know about turnovers and special teams touchdowns or whatever. Hartsville can move the football on anybody. And South Lawrence has got a really good defense, so something will have to give there. Up in the upstate, I think most of the eyes are on basically two games, I would say. Burns and Spartanburg. That's never been a really big game. Again, a region opener, playing first region game. It used to be at the end of the year. That's going to be a heck of a football game. Two good defenses. Burns has probably got the better offense. I would probably take Burns in a slight edge over Spartanburg, but that's one of those games where, Spartanburg could win that game and it wouldn't be a shock. The only shock would come is if one team blew out the other, which I just don't think is going to happen. And the other one is Westside and Greenville, a 4A matchup. Two very good teams, two top 10 ranked teams. Greenville's played a really tough schedule. Lost a couple of games, but they're still really good. And Westside has been putting up major points on everybody, including a really good Abbeville team. And they beat Hannah, so that's a marquee win for them. So I think Westside will win that game tonight. I think Greenville's defense is coming along, but not quite there. And then there's another big game down here in the Low Country. Again, a region opener, but the two best teams in the region are playing. Philip Simmons is 6-0, ranked in the top 10 in 3A for the first time in school history. And they take on the defending state champs in 3A, Beaufort, who's won 4 in a row after an 0-2 start. And, again, the way the region is lined up, the winner of this game is going to have the edge to win the region title. It would have to be an upset for them not to win it. So a lot on the line when these two teams play tonight because, you win the region, you get that home field through 3 rounds. And,
that's right.
That's a big deal. Normally you would see region titles saying, hey, they're going to be decided in week 10, but there's going to be several region titles. It may not be decided, obviously, because you don't know what can happen, but there's some teams that can make a major dent in their effort if they could pull off a win tonight.
So, David, I'd be remiss not to ask about, let's face it, Phil is our overlord here. His Latta team is 6-0. What do you think? What do you expect from them tonight against 3-3 Lamar? You got about 30 seconds.
I think this is going to be a tough game for them. I think Lamar's, they're 3-3, but their losses are to really good teams, and they're a pretty good football team. But I think Lauda can win this game. I think this is, I know Phil's not here to hear me say this. You might want to circle this on the tape, but I think Lauda is a legitimate team. I think they're really good, and this will be a tough challenge for them. But I think they'll come out with the win tonight.
Love to hear that. Well, David Sheldon, we really appreciate you joining us as always. Always terrific information. For those out there that love to follow high school football, join us again tonight from 10 to midnight when David Sheldon and Phil will do the high school scoreboard show. Now up next, we have the football filibuster featuring former Governor Jim Hodges and current Attorney General Alan Wilson. We'll get their picks for 5 games from this week. And feel free again to join us as well. 888-898-2525. And we'll be back.
SRN News. I'm Keith Peters reporting House Speaker Kevin McCarthy's last-ditch plan to keep the government temporarily open has collapsed. Friday's vote a day before the deadline makes a government shutdown almost certain. The vote was 198 to 232, with 21 Republicans voting to sink the package. The White House and Democrats called the Republican package, with its steep spending cuts of up to 30%, too extreme. The bill included border security provisions demanded by conservatives. The United Auto Workers Union expanded its strikes against Detroit automakers, ordering 7,000 more workers to walk off the job in Illinois and Michigan. The move announced Friday is supposed to put more pressure on the companies to improve their offers. On Wall Street, the Dow down by 158 points, the Nasdaq rose 18, the S&P advanced 11. More details at srnnews.com.
There's more than one kind of customer when it comes to Shooter's Choice. First, there's the customer who knows what's what, has a pretty good idea of what he or she likes. You're looking for a few things. First, a good selection. Yep, Shooter's Choice has a huge selection. Firearms, ammo, accessories, optics, even gun safes. You're looking for good and fair pricing. Oh yeah, Shooter's has been around as your local stop forever because they treat you right. And how about customer service? Absolutely the best you'll find anywhere. The folks who work at Shooter's Choice are shooters and hunters just like you. They know their products. They can answer your question. And that brings me to the other type of customer. Someone maybe more like me. No expert for sure, but wants to learn from the right people. I don't need some big box store guy who works in the shoe department half a week, sporting goods the other half. I need the experts at Shooter's Choice who will treat me right, answer my questions as simple as they might be. They'll make my experience excellent. Online, it's shooterschoicesc.com or visit them in person on Sunset Boulevard in West Columbia. Make it your first choice, your best choice. Make it Shooter's Choice.
Are you looking for free checking and free savings? Dave Ramsey here, telling you to go see my friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union. They're not a mega bank that's so big they lose the ability to treat you like a human being. At Palmetto Citizens, you're not just a number, you're a member. Join today at any of their 14 locations or at palmettocitizens.org. Federally insured by the NCUA.
September means football and fall temps rolling in, but when it comes to our favorite fur babies, the shelters are still full from summer, and those dogs and cats need you more than ever. While the leaves are changing colors, these pets are sitting in the shelter looking for a new family. Be a hero to your kids. Be a hero to these puppies and kitty cats. Visit PetFinder.com to take a look at all the great dogs and cats available to you. That's PetFinder.com.
I sure like to brag about good local businesses. Franklin Plumbing and Drain Cleaning is a great local biz. Josh and his team stress customer service as their top priority. Franklin Plumbing and Drain Cleaning came out to my house. I had a toilet that wasn't working right, a garbage disposal that died. They came out right on time, told me everything they were going to do, and explained the price of each repair before even bringing in the tools. I knew exactly what I was getting and exactly what it would cost. Their prices are fair, their team is courteous and professional, plus they did a great job fixing what needed fixing in my home. I am very careful about making any recommendations, and I'm thrilled and confident to suggest you call Franklin Plumbing and Drain Cleaning for any plumbing needs. If it's a repair or to replace something, if it's that tankless water heater that you've always wanted to give you that endless hot water and save you some money, they unclog drain and sewer lines and so much more. Online, you'll find them at franklinplumbing.sc.com, or just give Josh and those great folks a phone call, 799-2222. That's 799-2222, and tell them you heard about them from here at The Point.
All right, welcome back into Sports Center on a Friday night. This is Pat Daniel, joined by Josh Cohen. We gave Chris Bergen the night off. Smitty is bouncing around somewhere on his way up to Knoxville. And Phil Kornblut, normally hosting the program, is somewhere up on the road in New York. So any Syracuse or Clemson fans up in rural New York, you see a guy racing about 105 down the road in the Sports Talk Pinto. It's bright green. You won't miss it. Looks like a Slimer mobile. Feel free to wave at him, say hello. If you're one of our fine police officers out there, maybe even give him a little bit of an escort, because I'm sure he's itching to join the program. He is somewhere between, I guess it'd be, I don't know, one of the LaGuardia or JFK and Syracuse. So now here in this segment, in just a moment, we'll have the football filibuster with former Governor Jim Hodges and current Attorney General Alan Wilson. But while Josh continues to get the guys to join us on the phone real quick, I want to throw out another topic out there for our listeners. We hope to have some time after the filibuster here to have some calls, and we'd love to know your thoughts. Throughout the week, Chris, Phil, and I have debated who is ultimately calling the shots up in Clemson regarding whether or not the Tigers leave the ACC for the SEC or the Big Ten. We've tossed out President Clements, Athletic Director Graham Neff, Dabo Sweeney, and, of course, the Board of Trustees. While none of us think any one entity has full control, we've disagreed over who has the loudest voice in the room and whose voice carries the most weight. Last night during Will and the Thrill, former Clemson offensive lineman and former color commentator Will Merritt told us that he believes Dabo Sweeney is swinging a mighty hammer and ultimately driving the train on whether Clemson stays or goes. Now, of course, this is just an opinion. We would love to hear from you, the listener, on who you think ultimately makes the decision, and also from Gamecock fans out there on whether or not you would welcome or even like to see Clemson into the SEC, or if you'd prefer to keep your rival elsewhere and away so you can continue the ACC and all that fun stuff. But now here we are going to transition. Josh has got the guys ready to go. We're going to enter into our football filibuster segment here. So first of all, we're going to welcome in current Attorney General Alan Wilson. General Wilson, how you doing tonight, sir?
I'm good. How are y'all doing tonight?
Hey, we are doing fantastic. We really appreciate you joining us tonight. And feel free to take up some time there, giving us your picks, whatever you like. We just really appreciate you joining us. And now also former Governor Jim Hodges. Welcome in, sir. Oh, Governor, are you with us?
He was too scared to show up, I think.
He was. Well, that's all right. Josh will try to pick up the phone here and get him. Sorry, you guys, trying to multitask here and do a little production work while hosting. But we'll get the governor with us here momentarily. But in the meanwhile, though, we can go ahead and start with the Attorney General here and try to get some of your picks for the week. Now, last week, Attorney General, you went 3-2 on the week, whereas Governor Hodges went 4-1. So that did separate the guys. He now holds a slight lead over you. The governor is 10-10 on the season. The general is 9-11 on the season. So I'm sure you're looking to bounce back this week. Feeling confident?
Yeah, I'm feeling pretty confident. Listen, the governor is very good at this. I give him his due. I like to tease him a bit, but he's very good. And so the fact that I'm hanging just one game behind him, 4 games into the season is a win for me. So I'm just going to try to hang close, and hopefully pull ahead after this week.
Hey, I feel your pain there. That's how the rest of us on Sports Talk feel, trying to keep up with both Phil Kornblut, who is currently destroying us in our segment, as well as our defending champ here with the Sports Talk team and family and friends, Smitty, who last year just decimated all of us. And now it does sound like we have former Governor Hodges with us. Governor, you there, sir? Oop. He is really scared of you tonight. He does not want to mess with the general. So that's fine. We'll just move on. Governor, if you're able to join us, we'll get you in here momentarily. But if not, we'll go ahead and go through the picks with you, sir. So let's start off with that game up in the mountains, up in Knoxville. The Gamecocks, who just destroyed Tennessee last year. Tennessee might be out for blood, out for revenge, but can they stop Spencer Rattler in that Gamecock high-octane offense? We don't know. Tennessee is currently favored by 12. What say you?
No, we're going in reverse order, I guess. So let me pull up my note here. Okay, yeah. So I've got listen. This is a game that even when we are down, and even when the spread is against us, South Carolina, like they do with Georgia, they always play tight. They always play close to Tennessee. So I think the spread is 12. I think South Carolina. Listen, they're going in as the underdog. The likelihood of them winning is kind of low, but I really do think they're going to keep this game close. Tennessee's out for revenge. Obviously, last year was a stunner. We kept them out of the championship game from being a competitor, but I think South Carolina will cover the spread on this week's game.
Okay, so we've got you down. I'm right there with you with the Gamecocks. Now, it does sound like in the background, former Governor Hodges has joined us. Are you there, sir?
I am with you now.
How about that? Welcome into the program. We appreciate you. After your 4-1 week last week and taking the lead now over General Wilson, we were a little surprised, thinking maybe you were tucking and running away with the trophy, kind of going ahead and claiming victory early, huh?
Well, I'm in the Hall of Fame. After winning 18 years in this championship, I'm not gonna run from anyone.
Love that. Well,
hey, Governor, I told him you were too afraid to appear on the show tonight. That's the story I was telling anyway.
I appreciate that, Alex.
Well, Governor,
I got your back.
There you go. Love to see the love here across parties here in our state. So, hey, General Wilson we started in reverse order. He corrected me there. My apologies. We'll correct that after this. But he went with with South Carolina. Tennessee is getting 12 points up in Knoxville. Governor, what do you think?
I think he's right. We've got the better quarterback, and I think we're playing pretty mistake-free football. If we can keep particularly if we can keep them from having a lot of long plays like last week, we got a chance to win it. So I'm definitely taking the Gamecocks in points.
Okay. All right. So you guys are agreeing there to both take USC. Now, let me see if I can correct the order here. I'm guessing if you said I went backwards, I should now go to Notre Dame at Duke. So that is the game day, ESPN game of the week. A lot of hoopla, a lot of excitement up in Durham. They already had that opening season big win on national television on Labor Day night over the Tigers. But now Notre Dame is coming in after having just lost to Ohio State in an absolute just nail-biter last week. Terrific finish. I'm sure you guys saw it as well. But let's see here. Duke is getting 6 points against Notre Dame. What do you think? Let's start here with the general. What do you think?
Okay. Well, I'm going to go with Notre Dame on this one.
Okay, going with the Irish. Governor, what about you?
Duke is the Zach Wilson of college football. I'm taking Notre Dame.
Throwing bombs and bagging moms, huh? That's the Zach Wilson of college football. So this is sports talk at night. All right, the kids are in bed. So okay. So again there you are both taking Notre Dame. So far through the first two games, you guys are staying equal. Now, General, this time I'll let the governor answer first, so he's not just playing possum here and copying your answers, so as to maintain that slight lead over you in the standings. So, Governor, next we're going to go with Georgia at Auburn. Auburn, little down this year. They replaced, of course, the whole coaching staff, brought in a new, instead of maybe run-heavy, slightly pass-heavy offense. The defense, Auburn's always going to be a bit tough. But the trenches right now, not so hot for Auburn. Georgia, that may be where they're able to get the lead. Auburn is getting 14.5 points, but that game is on the Plains in Auburn. Governor, what do you think?
Yeah, this Georgia team is not the Georgia team of the last 2 years, but I still think that they'll cover that. I'm going to take Georgia.
Okay, Attorney General Wilson, what do you think?
Yeah, I hate to agree with the governor. I mean, we got to put some distance between us, and he beat me last week. But I do have Georgia covering the spread on this one. I do agree they're not the Georgia of yesteryear, but they're still pretty tough. And I think Auburn's a little down, so I'm going to go with Georgia.
Okay, I like it. Cannot disagree with either of you there. Okay, 2 games left to go. So far through 3 games, y'all are all taking the same picks. Look at it 2 ways. Alan Wilson will not be able to catch you, Governor Hodges, but at the same time, from General Wilson's perspective, you're also playing it safe because Hodges may not be able to extend his lead. So now next we have Florida at Kentucky. This is basically a pick'em here. Kentucky is favored by 1 point. So, wow, that's almost surprising to see, Florida and Kentucky, but that is a 1-point spread. Kentucky is favored by 1. Let's go back to General Wilson. Who do you take here?
This really was one I went back and forth, but I'm going to go ahead and go with Florida.
Okay, so he is going with the Gators. That makes Josh Cohen here, his family, they are all diehard Gators fans. So he just gave a nice little fist pump there. Governor Hodges, what about you? There you go.
Well, I think he's probably right, but we've got to have something different. So I'm going to go with Kentucky because one thing about Florida is they generally play lousy on the road, and this one's on the road. So I'll take Kentucky.
Okay. So now 1 ball game left to go. We started out with the Gamecocks and the Vols. Now we're going to close up with the Tigers and the Orange. So that, of course, is Clemson at Syracuse. I mentioned earlier, just for a little more context here, well, if I can find it. Earlier, just wanted to mention there that now Dino Babers and Syracuse have always given Dabo Swinney's teams a hard time. Now, yes, Dabo's 6-1 against Babers, but 4 of those games were 1-score ball games, including each of the last 2 years. I don't know if that factors into your decision-making here, but the spread is 6.5. Clemson's favored by 6.5, or if you want to look at it, Syracuse plus 6.5. Let's start with Governor Hodges. Who are you going to take?
I'm going to take Clemson. After last week's game, I think their level of disappointment and their start, I believe they're going to take it out on Syracuse. I'll take Clemson.
Okay, that sounds good. Attorney General Wilson, now the last pick is yours, sir. Clemson or Syracuse?
So listen, Clemson last week let me down. They let me down hard, and that's how the governor was able to one-up me last week. But I agree with the governor. That was very disappointing. This is probably their worst start in how many years? I mean, a long time. So I'm going to give them one more chance, at least on having faith in them, and I think they're going to come out, and I think they're going to cover that by at least a touchdown.
Okay, so both of you agreeing there on the Tigers. So 4 out of 5 this week. The 2 of you are taking the same picks. The one difference being that Florida and Kentucky game. General Wilson is taking Florida, and former Governor Hodges is taking Kentucky. So any corrections here? This is your chance.
I'm going to hold. I think we'll stay. Yep.
Okay, I love the confidence. Love that. Okay, fellas, any final thoughts here on this segment? Otherwise, we appreciate you joining us, and we'll gladly move on, let you get back to your weekend. But any final thoughts?
Nothing here. Let's go Florida.
yeah, there you go. I really, one final thought. I think Rattler is going to, he might have the best year for a quarterback we've ever had. I mean, regardless of what the outcome is, the guy's just playing at a really high level. So it's a real pleasure to watch him.
That's very nice to hear. And just to add to that, you're exactly right. Spencer Rattler is currently 10th in the nation with over 1,200 yards passing on 74% completions. Just been it's been a pleasure to watch him, no matter who you pull for. He's been great this year. And then his top dog receiver, Xavier Legette, leads the country. That, again, I want to make sure people out there hear that he is currently leading the nation in receiving yards with 556, along with 3 touchdowns. So former Governor Jim Hodges and current Attorney General Alan Wilson, thank y'all so much for joining us tonight on Sports Talk. We really appreciate you both and hope you have a wonderful weekend.
Have a good weekend. You too.
All right, again, that was the football filibuster here on Sports Talk. We greatly appreciate their time. And now we're going to slide out for our second floating break of the evening. When we come back, we'll have about 8 or 9 minutes to take some calls. Anybody that wants to get over there, well, feel free to stack them up. I'd imagine we might hear from some of the familiar voices, but anybody else out there, you have an opinion on the Gamecocks, you have an opinion on the Tigers, maybe another in-state team we haven't talked about, the Braves, Panthers, whatever. This is your time. Feel free to give us a call, 888-898-2525. Again, 888-898-2525.
Football season is upon us, and that means Columbia is welcoming fans from around the corner and across the country. No matter where you're from, game day energy that can only be found in Carolina's capital city. Book hotel rooms, find pre- and post-game activities, and plan your tailgate spread with local favorites from pimento cheese to barbecue at ExperienceColumbiaSC.com. We'll see you soon, and go Gamecocks!
I'm State Treasurer Curtis Loftus. People often ask me, when should I start saving for college? And I always tell them, start today. September is College Savings Month, a great time to start saving for your child's education. Future Scholar makes it easy to open and manage your account online, and the plan offers options and benefits you won't find with a regular savings or investment account. So make this the month that you go to FutureScholar.com and see why it's the smart, easy way to save for college. FutureScholar.com.
You've put in the work for your education. The extra early, extra late, extra work. That's because you understand education opens doors to better pay, better opportunities, and a better you. Being educated about playing the lottery is no different. It helps you be a better player, one who knows when to play and when to take a rain check. The lottery's a game, so let's keep it fun. Learn more at sceducationlottery.com/betteryou.
Hi, this is Billy Downer from the South Carolina Department of Natural Resources. Are you looking for a safe place to shoot your rifle or handgun? Did you know that the South Carolina Department of Natural Resources operates 4 manned ranges across the state in Pickens County, Spartanburg County, Richland County, and Charleston County? For more information on our public ranges, visit dnr.sc.gov/shooting.
Hi, it's Phil Kornblut of the Sports Talk Media Network. We love our high school football in South Carolina, and we love bringing you the scores every Friday night. From 10 to midnight, we check in on every region across the state with live reports and coaches' interviews. So whether you're in your car after a game or lounging in your den, be sure to dial up the Founders Federal High School Scoreboard Friday nights right here on the Sports Talk Media Network.
Welcome back into Sports Talk. This is Pat Daniel sitting in for Phil Kornblut tonight. Phil should be joining us here soon. Got a text message from him that he is getting himself set up. I believe he has arrived at his hotel in Syracuse. I'm sure they set up the red carpet for him for that nice welcome and everything. So now I think we do have a couple callers lined up. This is your time to shine. We'd love to have you here. So now where is it we're going first? I think we have to
Andy.
Perfect. So we're going to stick right here in the Midlands, and we're going to go to Andy here in Columbia. You're on the program live with us, Andy. Thanks for joining us.
Pat, you just ruined my whole evening. I thought we were having KFF.
Oh, gotcha. It was a corn-free first hour. How about that? So it was a KFFH.
I thought corn was kind of being a no-show because his Packers were a no-show last night.
That's what Kevin Cohen sure seemed to allude to earlier, and he might have been onto something, but maybe I don't know what that says about me. He's now going to jump on here with us soon. I think he just wants to talk about the Ryder Cup and maybe cheer for Europe a little bit.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, they looked about as bad as the Packers looked last night.
Yeah, that wasn't great.
When Corn does get on, would you let him know that he needs to learn what day of the month it is? Because on y'all's website, ST Recruiting Notebook for 9/25.
Uh-oh.
I believe that's in the past.
Is that what he has for today?
That's your top headline.
Ooh, I love it. I'm seeing that right here. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
And then he references an announcement coming on 6/7. Yeah, that's he is up in New York right now. Maybe it's just something going on with him being up north as opposed to this. I'm not sure. That's interesting. But yeah, we'll have to make sure to get that corrected. I appreciate you keeping us on our toes, Andy.
Hey, when Corn makes a mistake, I like to jump right in. So
nothing wrong with that.
I would do that. I'll tell you what, he picked a bad weekend to go up to Syracuse. If he flew into LaGuardia or anywhere in New York. You know, they've had the most rain that they've had in a 24-hour period in like forever just now. So you must have gotten into a boat to get up to Syracuse. And then after the shutdown tomorrow, I hope he's leaving tomorrow before midnight, because if the shutdown comes upon, they're going to have a little problems with TSA and flight controllers.
Yeah, I had the same thought earlier. I was hesitant to bring that up to him because he may end up spending a little extended vacation up in New York, or maybe even bring the Sports Talk Pinto back south. He might have to see if the wheels can last for that far of a drive.
Well, if he's going to drive back, he can bring back a couple of dozen sesame seed bagels from New York City. So, you know, at least put the Pinto to good use.
Perfect.
Bring us back some good food.
We'll make sure to get him to do that.
Maybe some nice lean corned beef, you know, and some stuff like that. But Pat, I think tomorrow we're going to see the Gamecocks show that they're a little bit better than we all thought, and I think they're going to show out tomorrow. We know that last year wasn't a fluke, and Mr. Rattler's got him in his back pocket, and I got a feeling that the blocking line will do well in the run game, and I'm not sure about how they're going to do as well in the passing game, but I think Mr. Rattler has shown that even with a bad blocking on passing situations, he's more than willing to stand in there and get the ball completed and take the hit. So I've been really impressed by him by doing that this year. And hopefully we'll see Knox and Simon get a little bit more play, a little bit more passes. I know he's been going to Knox, but Simon seems to be a little disappeared there. And I think for us to really open up Leggett, and is Brown playing tomorrow? Do you know or not?
That's a good question. I don't offhand. I can find that out real quick for you, though.
But, you know, that will help a lot in the wide receiver core if we can get our tight ends into the game. And don't count out Luke Doty. I think every game he's been showing that, he's quite a skilled wide receiver. And he was in high school. I think what people forget. Didn't he play his sophomore and junior season as wide receiver, or was it just a sophomore year?
At least sophomore. I'm not sure about his junior year. And Amarian Brown is available. It looks like head coach Shane Beamer gave an injury update yesterday and said after suffering a hamstring injury against Furman in week 2, Brown practiced every day this week, but like others is not quite 100%, but he is available.
Well, I'm just hoping Coach Gray got on his secondary and we're going to see a little bit better play. I don't know if it was that they didn't make adjustments to what was going on because they were expecting so much run out of Mississippi State or not. And if they didn't make adjustments, that's a big issue because you got to be able to make in-game adjustments.
You're exactly right. You hit the nail on the head there. And you mentioned Spencer Rattler. He and Dow Loggins, new offensive coordinator, we had heard throughout the preseason about how much they seemed to be in sync, but we didn't know whether that was just coaches speak or if it would actually be able to translate to success on the field. But through the first 4 games of the season, they've been nothing short of spectacular. They have the most explosive offense, arguably in the SEC, one of the top 10 most explosive offenses, at least from a passing perspective, in the country. Are you expecting this to be a shootout, or are you thinking it might be more defensively oriented this weekend?
Well, I predicted on Kevin's show 38-35, so I'm expecting some points.
There you go.
I don't think I don't think either defense is going to be able to hold either team below 20 points at the least.
Who do you have 38? Who do you have 35?
38 Carolina, 35 Tennessee.
All right. That's right. You did say that earlier. So back-to-back years, you expect the Gamecocks now to go into hostile Knoxville at night, shut up the crowd a little bit, and walk out of there with a victory. I think there'd be a lot of fans here in Columbia and around the state, and Gamecock fans elsewhere that would certainly love to see that.
Hey, all we can do is hope for the best, and that's what I'm hoping for. I'm not going to sit here and think we're going to go in there and tank. So, hopefully we'll be able to show what we can do, and we can make some, show every game improvement, which I think we have been seeing so far. Is each game we've been seeing some improvement. So hopefully that'll keep going along the trail, and we'll see a win. But, Pat, I'm enjoying you hosting the show. You're doing a great job, and I appreciate it. And Josh is doing a good job as always.
We thank you very much.
And remember, tell Mr. Corn he needs to fix his mistakes, and he should have stayed off so he could have gave us all a KFF.
That's right. I'm already marking it down now.
To go along with the RBF that we had today at Seawells, the KFF on top of it would have been the extra gravy on top of our beef.
That's right. Got to get lots of that gravy. And Andy, we really appreciate you joining us. Thank you for all the kind words. And now I think we're going to be starting up our music here and heading on to the break. It's been a great first hour. We appreciate everybody that's been able to join us. I think we might have Phil Kornblut on the other side, but we will certainly find out here soon enough. And now, Gamecock Larry, if you're still listening there, I know you were next. I just didn't want to squeeze you. Thought you might be able to at least get a couple little Gamecock crows in there real quick. But we'll get you coming out of this break right before we get to Lee Sterling. But up next, we will hear from our expert of the program. Our gambling aficionado, Lee Sterling, will be joining us here after this break. Feel free to join us for the second hour on Sports Talk. Again, this is Pat Daniel filling in for Phil Kornblut. We'll be right back.
By the way, before we do what's supposed to happen here, thank you for pushing the button. I thank you. Programming thanks you. America thanks you.
WQXL Columbia, W264DF.
From the Bart Fireside Studio, the solution for keeping you warm this winter.
This is 107 The Point.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Keith Peters reporting. California Senior Senator Dianne Feinstein has passed away at the age of 90. Correspondent Larry Marino of Salem's KRLA, The Answer in Los Angeles, has more on the story.
Senator Feinstein's office released a statement from James Saul's chief of staff saying, quote, sadly, Senator Feinstein passed away last night at her home in Washington, D.C. Her passing is a great loss for so many, from those who loved and cared for her to the people of California that she dedicated her life to serving. It goes on to say Senator Feinstein never backed away from a fight for what was just and right. At the same time, she was always willing to work with anyone, even those she disagreed with. I'm Larry Marino at the California Republican Convention in Orange County.
Torrential downpours have made life miserable in and around New York City as remnants of Tropical Storm Ophelia hit Gotham. New York City Mayor Eric Adams says there's more rain in the forecast.
This is a dangerous weather condition, and it is not over. And I don't want those gaps in heavy rain to give the appearance that it is over. It is not. We could possibly see 8 inches of rain before the day is over.
6 inches of rain at John F. Kennedy Airport surpassed a record set during Hurricane Donna in September of 1960. Donald Trump made a personal pitch to California Republicans in a bid to solidify his support in a GOP presidential contest he's dominated for months. The leading GOP White House hopeful told supporters Friday that help is on the way. Party activists also will hear from several Trump rivals for the GOP nomination, including Florida Governor Ron DeSantis and South Carolina Senator Tim Scott. On Wall Street, the Dow down by 158 points, the NASDAQ rose 18. More on these stories at townhall.com.
The Relief Factor pain relief that's natural, pain relief that works, and pain relief that attacks the source of the pain. That's the experience of tens of thousands of Americans who are taking Relief Factor right now. See their incredible video endorsements at relieffactor.com and then order your 3-week quick starter pack for just $19.95. That's less than $1 a day. Find out if it can work for you like it works for me by ordering your 3-week quick starter pack today. relieffactor.com, relieffactor.com. Be the next success story.
My name is Jason Hansen. I'm a former CIA officer and New York Times bestselling author. You can protect your hard-earned retirement assets with a tax-free loophole that allows you to convert your retirement into physical gold and silver. Advantage Gold is the nation's highest-rated gold company. They have the best process, pricing, and service. If you want to get your free gold and silver investment kit, please contact Advantage Gold right now. Call 800-900-8000. That's 800-900-8000.
Advantage Gold is not an investment advisor or a tax advisor. Consult with your financial advisor before investing.
Call 800-900-8000.
The Commerce Department says consumer prices were up slightly in August. We hear more on this from correspondent Shelley Adler, who has the details on the story.
An inflation gauge closely tracked by the Federal Reserve accelerated last month, but the boost was due mostly to higher gas prices. The good news, measures of underlying inflation slowed in the latest sign that overall price pressures are still moderating. Checking the numbers, Prices rose just under 0.5% from July to August. That's just 0.2% from the previous month. The latest data coincides with rising hopes among Fed officials that they may be able to bring inflation back to their target without driving up unemployment or causing a recession. I'm Shelley Adler.
News and analysis available at townhall.com. I'm Keith Peters reporting.
On Point Weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107 The Point.
And here's your weekend forecast. Clear and comfy tonight with a low tip dipping down to 62. Tomorrow, a great-looking Saturday with mostly sunny skies and a high of 83. Even nicer on Sunday with sunshine and 81-hour high. Looking ahead, no rain in the forecast for most of the next week. Have a great weekend. I'm Brian Leonard with your On Point local weather.
As a kid, you dreamed of being a firefighter one day. Now, the opportunity is yours. Answer the sound of sirens. Live your dream. Become a part of a team, a family. Visit scvolunteerfire.org to find out more.
Welcome back to Sports Talk on the Sports Talk Media Network. You can reach the guys with the South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number, 888-898-2525. That's 888-898-2525. Now back to Phil, Chris, and Pat with the second on the Sports Talk Media Network.
Welcome back into Sports Talk here on a Friday night. This is Pat Daniel filling in for Phil Kornblut, who should be joining us momentarily. He sent me a text during the break. He's at the hotel. He got the red carpet treatment. I think he's trying to slug down his complimentary glass of champagne and chocolate chip cookie as he gets settled into his room. Gets into that, maybe I should leave that out, but his comfortable bathrobe, and then he'll be joining us here momentarily from Syracuse, where it sounds like the weather is terrible. So good thing they are playing in the former Carrier Dome, which again, I can't mention that without throwing out there. The entire existence known as the Carrier Dome never had air conditioning. Now that the facility is no longer sponsored by Carrier, it has air conditioning. Figure that one out for me. Gotta love it. Anyways, here we're going to hear from an expert, and we're going to welcome in our gambling aficionado, Lee Sterling, with his weekly Sterling picks into the program. Anybody out there that loves following sports, loves doing some sports gambling, this is the man you got to follow. Last week, he went 3-1. This week, he's going to talk about several more games. And so we want to go ahead and welcome you in. Lee Sterling, thank you for joining us. How you doing tonight, sir?
I'm good. You were my last program, did 34 programs, and headed home after this. Going to go to my wife's 40th high school reunion. So
how about that?
Yeah, so I'm going to have a couple drinks and relax, and hopefully I look a little bit better than most of her high school boyfriends.
Well, you sound great. I'm sure you look great too. that Miami sunshine keeps you young, I'm sure.
I hope so.
That's right. Well, Lee, we appreciate you joining us. Phil may join us here in a moment, but for now, we're going to go through the picks, and I'm going to go through them in just the order that Phil sent them to me. If this is not how you have them, feel free to correct me. But up first, he has LSU -2 versus Ole Miss. Is that what you have first on your list as well? And if so, please go right ahead.
Yeah, so in this game, Ole Miss, they had a perfect chance last week. Alabama is now one of their better teams this year to take them. All you got to do is score mid-20s. You win the game here. But let's also not just look at that game. And Jackson Dart got hit early and often. Even if he plays, he can't be 100%. They played Tulane with a backup quarterback and barely pulled that game out. Very misleading result. They scored 3 times in the last 5 minutes for that 17-point win. And Georgia Tech, which is no great shake, they gave up 26 first downs. I think Jaden Daniels is the best quarterback by a long shot in the SEC. He's got weapons galore. Malik Neighbors at receiver, almost unguardable, averaging almost 17 yards a reception and 5 touchdowns. And under the radar, Notre Dame transfer running back Logan Diggs averaging 6.7 yards per carry. I think this whole LSU team, it was tight last week, but Arkansas played about as well as they could play. I like LSU. They pull away 42-27.
Wow. Okay. All right. So you were confident there. Next up on the list, we have Kentucky hosting Florida. So that game is at home for the Wildcats, and they are favored by 1 over the Gators. What about this game?
Yeah, both offenses here, nothing special. I mean, transfer quarterbacks. I do think, though, that Devin Leary, a little bit better pedigree, better pure passer than Graham Mertz. And, if they can get it going, and I think it then might come down to defense. Kentucky's defense, 8 takeaways this year, and Florida only 1. Florida's played one half of football. That's it against Tennessee. And you got to think home field matters for something. And the favorite in Wildcat games here, the last 9 games, is 7-2 against the spread here. Tight game here, but I like Kentucky 24-20.
Wow. Okay. All right. Yeah. Tight game, though. So next, we're going to go up to the former Carrier Dome. We're going to go up to Syracuse, New York, where Phil is hopefully going to be for the game. And Clemson, so in our personal challenge, or our Sports Talk challenge, we had Clemson -6.5, but the spread you have is Clemson -7 against Syracuse. I pointed out earlier, for whatever reason, Dino Babers' squads always play the Tigers close, each of the last 2 years being one-possession games. 4 of their 7 matchups overall have been one-possession games. What do you think about this game?
Yeah, so the line has come down. We sent that out to you Wednesday afternoon. The line has changed a little bit since then. And the question here is, where is Clemson mentally? I mean, they really probably have nothing to play for. They're out of the national championship picture. They would need probably a miracle to get in the ACC championship game. They got to run the table. They're going to face a quarterback in Garrett Schrader. He's 6'4". I think he's closer to 6'5", 6'6". And you look at him and you're like, wow. It doesn't look like a quarterback, doesn't look like a runner, but very deceptive. He'll run for 50 to 150 yards almost every game, pass for now 200-plus yards almost every game, really improved that part of their game. And the run defense, we know Clemson's a run team, at least base first, and they throw to their backs out of the backfield. Syracuse's defense held Army's triple option to 125 yards and 2.7 yards per carry. Other 3 games, no one's run for more than 100 yards here. Last 6 games, 4 of them have been decided by 3, 4, 3, and 6 points. I think Clemson wins 28-26, but I'm taking the 6.5 in Syracuse.
Another close game, and I'm noticing with the 28, you're not expecting any field goals from the Tigers, huh?
Not this Saturday. Just take the extra point, and when you're close enough, just go for it and 4th down.
There you go. I'd expect a lot of Tiger fans are okay with that at this point. And let's see. Okay, next we are traveling up to the mountains in Knoxville, mountains of Tennessee in Knoxville for that Tennessee versus South Carolina game. Of course, people remember last year where the Gamecocks and Spencer Rattler just lit up the Volunteers for 4 straight quarters. Had the unfortunate injury to Hendon Hooker for the Volunteers. But now this year, Tennessee's favored by 12. It's a night game, under the lights, over 100,000 people expected. But again, Volunteers favored by 12. What do you think about this one?
You left out probably 100,000 drunk people, or at least 90,000. Right?
Thoroughly lubricated. You were correct.
Lubricated, that's right. This is a game here I think Tennessee is going to take very seriously. They were in shock, I think, when their star quarterback got hurt last year. I mean, he was headed towards winning the Heisman, in my opinion. He goes out, and they never recovered. I mean, 63-38 beatdown when they were laying 23.5 points. It's almost a 50-point spread. You almost never see that in college football. The Gamecocks, they were outgained last week against Mississippi State. Mississippi State decided, okay, we're not a running team. We're going to throw the ball now. While Tennessee cruised, they were up 31-0 against UTSA at half. Offense seems to be playing at a high level right now. I think the difference here, I think it's going to be probably a one-score game and the depth. South Carolina just doesn't have that depth on the offensive, defensive line, and linebacker position. They, if they had depth, they'd be able to hold on, maybe make a charge here late in games. But I think it's going to be tough for them against Tennessee on the road. I think Tennessee pulls away late, wins and covers 37-23.
Wow. Okay. All right. And then let's see here. Last but not least, we have the free play game of the week, and that's Notre Dame. This is also the ESPN Game Day game of the week. The Game Day crowd is up in Durham for that matchup of ranked teams. Notre Dame coming off a tough loss at Ohio State last week, facing the upstart Duke Blue Devils, who to this point are undefeated, ranked 17 in the country. And I heard rumors today that they might even be already greasing the old poles up there in the end zones just in case. They're already planning out a potential celebration for the fans to rush the field for a second time this season. Funny stuff to hear. So now with that game, though, Notre Dame is favored by 5. Lee, what do you think?
Anyone wants to get the game for free, just call 800-400-9741. I will give them the game for free. First 10 callers get it. 800-400-9741. And what a run it's been. We are now 33-15 on the season. No one can even touch that documented record. Anyone wants to get involved, we're 27-10 the last 3 weeks. I know there's a lot of people, I get a lot of emails and calls. People said they'd love to come on board, and maybe they're not familiar with me. Maybe, they don't have enough to pay for a month or a season. I've never done this before. Never in the history of Paramount Sports. I'm going to sell an individual game for tonight. There is one game where a team is favored by less than a touchdown. I think they're going to win by 21 to 28 points. I've watched this game. It is a great matchup. I rate my games from 10 to 50 units. This is only the third game this year in college football that's rated 35 units or higher. Usually all my selections are in the 15 to 30 unit range. We've won every game on our best bets this year. You can purchase tonight's game, and it has not started yet. You got plenty of time. $10. That's right.
Wow.
You can go to ParamountSports.com and get this blowout special, best bet, just $10. All you need to do, go to the website. As soon as you purchase it, window pops open with the selection. You don't have to call me. You're all ready to go. Like I said, I think it's going to be an absolute blowout. You want to jump on board, $10. First time ever we've sold an individual game. ParamountSports.com or call 800-400-9741.
You the man, Lee. We appreciate you. And like he said, for anybody out there, you know what? That's about the cost of a beer these days at most, if a craft beer at least, at most breweries or beers. Spend that $10, make a little back, buy yourself 2 beers next time. Lee Sterling, right. We greatly appreciate your time. Have a wonderful weekend.
You too. Have a great weekend and be safe, okay?
Thank you, sir. That was Lee Sterling with his Sterling Picks of the Week joining us here on Sports Talk. We really appreciate that. We know whatever you think about gambling, it's becoming bigger and bigger everywhere, every week, all across the country. I love it. Everybody does, whether it's fantasy football, calling games, whatever. We appreciate Lee for giving us all the insider knowledge of the week. So now before we hit a break here and then come back with our NASCAR segment with Jeff Owens, we're going to jump back to the phone line here for just a quick minute. We want to get in friend of the program, Gamecock Larry. I'm sure you've got plenty to say about your Gamecocks up in Knoxville this weekend. Larry, welcome into the program.
How you doing, everybody? But I got one thing to say about Clemson. You Tiger fans, Phil went up to Syracuse with a 2-2 Tiger team. Going to come back to Clemson with a 2-3 Tiger team. Syracuse 27, Clemson 21. Now my Gamecocks. Cole Happel, you got on there revenge for Hendon. We don't play for revenge. Revenge, we come to win. We're going to come up there. Rattler you're going to be after Rattler. You're going to try to hurt him. We remember Lattimore, but that's okay. Our young offensive line going to stop you. Gamecocks 44. Vols 38. Oh, man, got a thing. 44-38 Gamecocks.
All right.
Come on down. We coming to win. We ain't coming to revenge. We coming to win. Gamecocks. Love all y'all. Talk to you later. Have a good weekend.
Woo, we appreciate you, Larry. Always appreciate you calling in. Had to let you get in your 2 cents. And now, quite a shootout. Larry is thinking a shootout up in Knoxville, 44-38. If that is the final score, even if you reverse it, that sounds like an instant classic. That'll be a fantastic watch. For anybody out there, again, that's a 7:30 kickoff Saturday night in Knoxville. Tennessee's favored by 12 over the Gamecocks. And Matt Smith of Sports Talk is up there covering that game. So now we're going to go ahead and slide out for a quick break here. And after the break, the corn has arrived. Phil Kornblut will be making his triumphant return to the program after dealing with planes, trains, and automobiles trying to get from Columbia, South Carolina up to Syracuse, New York. Apparently just a lot of monsoon. But we're going to come back with our NASCAR segment with friend of the program, Jeff Owens. So after a brief time out here, we'll be right back with Jeff. Thanks again. This is Sports Talk.
Looking for a way to fight back against inflation? One viable way to help your money stay relevant during inflation is through investing. To a new investor, investing can feel like a puzzle. With so many pieces to consider, it can be hard to know where to start. But with the right guidance along the way, you can put the pieces together to create a winning strategy. That's where Founders Investment Services come in. Our team of financial advisors can help you navigate the complexities of investing and create a personalized plan that fits your goals and risk tolerance. We'll work with you to identify the pieces of your puzzle and how they fit into your financial future. When you're ready to find the pieces to your financial plan, call 866-739-7064 to speak with one of our specialists, or visit foundersfcuinvestments.com to learn about how we can help you identify the key pieces to your financial plans. Securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA, SIPC, and not NCUA insured. Not guaranteed by credit union and may lose value.
Hi, I'm Jim Corbett. I've been an attorney for more than 30 years. There's one thing I've learned about injury cases. It's you need the personal touch. You need the lawyer to get to know you and describe your damages. You don't want a case manager talking to an insurance company and then talking to you and then talking to maybe to a lawyer with limited experience at the last minute to try to settle a case. I talk to you. I find out what your case is about. Jim at JimCorbettAttorney.com. Jim at JimCorbettAttorney.com for your injury cases.
It's Friday Night Live at Lakeside Lodge in Clemson, and you're invited. It's the place to be in Tiger Town the night before every Clemson football game, home or away. Lakeside has the fantastic restaurant and bar, Traditions on the Lake, plus an online TV show featuring Tiger legends Joe and Jeff Boston. And we finish with the best live bands in the upstate. Be sure to check out the Hazmatics from Atlanta on September 29th and Odyssey on October 6th. It's Friday Night Live at Lakeside Lodge in Clemson.
South Carolina's taste buds have spoken, and they're asking for beef. There are more than 7,800 farms raising cattle from pasture to plate in the Palmetto State. So whether it's steaks on the grill before the big game, sirloin medallions plated for date night, or burgers with a family, make sure beef is a part of your playbook this football season. Smoked, grilled, and slow roasted. Find the best way to enjoy your beef at scattle.org. Beef. It's what's for dinner in South Carolina. Funded by the South Carolina Beef Council, part of the Beef Checkoff program.
South Carolinians, this message is for you, whether you or a loved one are about to receive Medicare or want to improve your current Medicare situation. Brian Spencer of Palmetto Medicare is the guy for you. This is Mike Morgan, and I've known Brian for over 20 years. He started Palmetto Medicare in 2005, and here's what I can tell you about Brian. He's not the best looking guy in the world. He's not a poet. He's not a very good golfer. He can't sing at all, not even in the shower. All of this is true. But here's what else I can tell you about Brian Spencer. There's no one I would trust more with that all-important decision of who will handle your Medicare benefits. Palmetto Medicare is local, specific, and native to the Palmetto State. Any and all plans in South Carolina are available through Palmetto Medicare, and they offer a free annual Medicare and prescription review. So with that in mind, there's just one phone call to make, 803-960-9484, 803-960-9484. Let Brian Spencer do the one thing he is good at, helping people with all their Medicare needs.
Love it when it's ball wide, love it when it's fast, love it when the leaders talk, the pack is moving past, love it when they make you lots and lots of noise, can't wait to hear these W's say, boogity, 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 let's go racing, boys, let's go racing, boys. Love it when they're drafting, love it when they slide, love it when the back straight, the throttle's open wide, love it when they're making lots and lots of noise. Can't wait to hear these W's say, boogity, 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 let's go racing, boys.
Let's go racing, boys. Let's go racing, boys. Let's go racing. I hate to break in
Welcome
like
in,
this because, Pat and Josh doing a great job. but it has been, I feel like I've been in a NASCAR, 500-lap race at Darlington, followed by 500 laps at Bristol. That's what it's felt like today. But enough of that. Just glad to be at Syracuse, and we welcome in Jeff Owens in the fast lane here tonight as Pat hands the baton to me because he feels like I have a little better feel for the NASCAR world, though I think he can handle this as well as he's handled everything with a plum tonight, as far as I could tell. Jeff, welcome in. How are you?
I'm doing great, Phil. How you guys?
Man, we're doing fine. I've been traveling all day trying to get to Syracuse to cover Clemson tomorrow and had heavy, nasty weather in New York City. Canceled one flight, had to go from one airport to the next. Flight delayed. You've been through that, I'm sure, in your travels covering NASCAR. Doesn't always go smoothly when you're in the air.
Yeah, definitely not. I've sat in more airports than I care to. We used to have almost as many flight delays in NASCAR as we do rain delays. So there are a lot of Thursdays and Mondays spent in airports for sure.
Oh, no question about it. Well, let's get to this weekend, and we go to Talladega, which, of course, is it's crapshoot. You never know what's going to happen at that track. And what are your thoughts about cranking up this part of the playoffs now, going to Talladega and laying it on the line there? What kind of strategies do you think to be played out here?
Well, definitely a big race, no question about it, Phil. This is one of the most critical races in the entire playoffs, and probably the one I would say that drivers have been most nervous about, because as we know, anything can happen down there, and we're definitely going to see at least one or two really big wrecks, and there's going to be some playoff guys involved in them, and everybody's nervous about that. There will be a championship lost this weekend. I can almost guarantee you that. Somebody who's got a shot to win this title will probably see their hopes fade away in a big pileup in a 20-car wreck, probably. That almost always happens.
Mm-hmm.
So these guys are pretty nervous, and they're just going to, I think, if you got a shot to win it at the end, you go for it. But I think most of them are just thinking survival. Just get through this thing. Don't lose too many points. Earn as many as you can, and if you got a shot to win it at the end, you go for it. But it's definitely a race that's got everybody on pins and needles for sure.
Well, we're down to the Elite Eight. William Byron has already advanced to the next round with his win at Texas last weekend. So he can just sort of chill and go for the win and not have to worry about anything. And I guess, the other seven, they kind of feel like they all have an opportunity at this track to win or finish high and gain a bunch of points. So I think things are still going to be pretty scrambled in the playoff standings coming out of this weekend. I mean, you may have another winner to clinch a spot moving forward, but I imagine that you're going to see these guys finishing up towards the front, barring any catastrophe on the track, and padding their positions in the standings going into the third race of this particular segment.
I mean, anything can happen. I mean, it could really turn the point standings upside down. I think those guys that are below the cutoff line there, including Kyle Busch, they've got a decision to make. But, you got to stay out of trouble or you're done. So do those guys race to the front, or do they try to be careful? And we know that really doesn't even work down there. I mean, you used to have to make a decision down there, and we talk about this every time a Talladega race comes up. Do you race to the front, or do you drop to the back? Well, in the playoffs, I don't think any of these guys can drop to the back anymore, because stage points are so valuable. Every single point is valuable, and you want to try to get points in each of these stages, and those points will likely be the difference in between you getting eliminated and going on to the next round. So I think all your playoff guys are going to try to get to the front, and they hope they can get up there and sort of line up and stay out of trouble and race for it at the end. So it's going to be interesting. There'll be a lot of different strategies played out, and when you have guys going for it like that, bad stuff's going to happen. So there's going to be some big wrecks for sure.
Oh, always. I guess I should clarify myself, too, because there's 12 left, but they're the Elite 8 who are above the cutoff line. I was eliminating 4 guys a little bit too early and really shouldn't do that because I guess as you look at the 4 below the cutoff line, any of those 4 could win. And Bubba Wallace in particular, as we've noted in the past, runs well at Talladega and has a win there.
Yeah, and I think he's one of the ones that expects to be fast, and I would expect him, to try to get to the front and, stay there. And I expect, we always have some strategy and some teamwork play out in these things too. And of all the teams that I think are going to work together more than anybody, it's probably going to be Joe Gibbs Racing, particularly Denny Hamlin. Hamlin's going to try to work with his Gibbs teammates, but he's going to be looking out for his own race team as well, which I think he's going to be trying to hook up with Bubba Wallace and Tyler Reddick and draft with those guys and help those guys stay at the front. And then at the end, they'll all 3 race for the win. But you'll see some teamwork too. I think the Hendrick guys will probably do that. They'll be trying to help William Byron. They'll be trying to help Chase Elliott a little bit, or not Chase, but Kyle Larson. So we'll see. There'll be a lot of strategy played out in this thing as well.
No, as always at Talladega, a lot of drafting and a lot of inline racing, and we'll see what train kind of pulls their way to the front. Thank you, Jeff. Always great having you with us. Have a great weekend. Catch you next week. We'll be right back.
On Point Weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107 The Point.
And here's our weekend forecast. Clear and comfy tonight with a low temp dipping down to 62. Tomorrow, a great-looking Saturday with mostly sunny skies and a high of 83. Even nicer on Sunday with sunshine and 81-hour high. Looking ahead, no rain in the forecast for most of the next week. Have a great weekend. I'm Brian Leonard with your On Point Local Weather. Ever wonder why more businesses don't provide the same excellent service as, say, Chick-fil-A? At Hometown 803, they do. They're your family-run, all things South Carolina store. Famous for their 803 area code hats with the crescent moon. They also have Carolina and Clemson-themed hats and their latest drop, PVC patch hats, which are just on fire. Their local high school partner hats are the hats that give back with each sale. Visit their store in downtown Lexington next to McDonald's or online at hometown803.com. Use code RADIO at checkout to get 15% off.
With SRN News, I'm Keith Peters reporting the United Auto Workers Union expanded its strikes against Detroit automakers, ordering 7,000 more workers to walk off the job in Illinois and Michigan. The move announced Friday is supposed to put more pressure on the companies to improve their offers. It marked the second time the union has widened the walkout, which started 2 weeks ago at 3 assembly plants. The Navy will begin randomly testing its Special Operations Forces for steroids and other performance-enhancing drugs beginning in November. It's a groundbreaking step that military leaders have long resisted. Rear Admiral Keith Davids, the commander of Naval Special Warfare Command, announced the new program Friday in a message to his force. On Wall Street, the Dow down by 158 points, the Nasdaq rose 18, the S&P 500 declined 11. This is SRN News.
I sure like to brag about good local businesses. Franklin Plumbing and Drain Cleaning is a great local biz. Josh and his team stress customer service as their top priority. Franklin Plumbing and Drain Cleaning came out to my house. I had a toilet that wasn't working right, a garbage disposal that died. They came out right on time, told me everything they were going to do, and explained the price of each repair before even bringing in the tools. I knew exactly what I was getting and exactly what it would cost. Their prices are fair, their team is courteous and professional, plus they did a great job fixing what needed fixing in my home. I am very careful about making any recommendations, and I'm thrilled and confident to suggest you call Franklin Plumbing and Drain Cleaning for any plumbing needs. If it's a repair or to replace something, if it's that tankless water heater that you've always wanted to give you that endless hot water and save you some money. They unclog drain and sewer lines and so much more. Online, you'll find them at franklinplumbing.sc.com or just give Josh and those great folks a phone call, 799-2222. That's 799-2222, and tell them you heard about them from here at The Point.
Shepherd's Glass has provided commercial, residential, and auto glass installation, repair, and replacement to Columbia for over 50 years. Large retail storefronts, auto, custom shower enclosures, and mirrors for that remodeling or new construction project. Visit shepherdsglass.com to see and learn more. Now with 2 locations on Flat Springs Road in West Columbia and Chapin at 855 Chapin Road. shepherdsglass.com.
Shepherd's Glass. Shepherd's Glass. A true reflection of quality.
Hey, it's Jay with the Cigar Militia, Columbia's premium cigar store. Have you noticed the change in weather? Some people call it fall. We call it cigar smoking season. Or better yet, it's football weather. Come in and check out our humidor and do what I do and get your go-to stick or try something new. We've got an awesome staff willing to walk you through and help you find your new favorite. And besides, you're going to need some celebration cigars for when your favorite team wins the big game. The Cigar Militia, 1410 Colonial Life Boulevard.
Hi, I'm Tazima. Join me every Saturday at 11 a.m. for Small Business Saturday. We'll celebrate business owners in our community while learning their stories of success and failure. It's Small Business Saturday right here at 100.7 The Point.
Underwood fakes and now goes to throw it. Finds Wallace this side down the sideline open. 20, 15, 10, 5, touchdown. Touchdown, Cooper Wallace.
Brian Giffen here. Join Hall of Famer Lee Glaze and me as the Bulldogs look to bounce back from an 0-4 start this Saturday versus Western Carolina at home. Our stadium show starts at 1 with kickoff at 2. Join us for all the action right here on Columbia's local talk radio experience, 100.7 The Point and MakeThePointRadio.com.
Hi, this is Joel Lurie. I'm the host of Health Matters every Monday morning from 9 to 10 right here on 100.7 The Point. Join me as we talk about issues impacting your health and our community. It's Health Matters every Monday at 9 a.m. right here on The Point.
Here on Sports Talk, because of our travel delays, and we're going to get to George and Robbie and MJ with the Ryder Cup in Rome in just a moment. But Pat was telling me he did not have a chance to go through our picks for this weekend and where things stand after last weekend's game. So very quickly, let me update things and tell you what we're doing this week. So in our Sports Talk Pick'em Challenge, your humble host had another great week, 4-1. That's 4 straight weeks of 4-1. I don't know what I'm doing. 16-4, kicking butt, taking names. If my picking was if my golf game was as good as my picking, I could play for the U.S. Ryder Cup team, I think. We did have a couple of dudes go 5-0 last week, really helped themselves. Pete Yanitator, he went 5-0, so he's 14-6. And also going 5-0 last week was Dr. Rick Sanford, Rick Drick, 11-9 after going 5-0. Let's see, Chris Bergen went 3-2. He's 10-10. Smitty went 4-1, 10-10. Pat had a good week, 4-1, 12-8. Kev Cohen 4-1. He's 12-8. The Big Kahuna, Bobby Harton, 3-2. He's 7-13. Fran, the money coach, Halloran, 4-1, 11-9. Teddy Hefner, the sexy one, 4-1, 9-11. The bad boy of Sports Talk Radio, Alan Smothers, 3-2, 6-14. Jim Corbett, attorney for the Stars, 3-2, 10-10. And Big Daddy Don Williams, godfather of Sports Talk, 4-1, and he's up to 11-9 on the year. So, this week, our picks look like this. Give me the Gamecocks in the 12. I'm taking Syracuse at home in the 6.5. Give me Kentucky laying the 1. I want Auburn in the 14.5. And I'll take Duke over Notre Dame at home getting the 6. Bergie likes the Gamecocks, the Tigers, Kentucky, Georgia, and Notre Dame. He likes Notre Dame on the road. Dr. Rick changed his mind. First he was going with the Vols, changed his mind to go to the Gamecocks, though he's worried about that pick. He also likes Clemson, Kentucky, Georgia, Notre Dame. Smitty, he's going with the Vols, the Tigers, the Gators, Auburn, Notre Dame. Kev Cohen, He's going with the Gamecocks. Clemson, Kentucky, Georgia, Notre Dame. Kahuna, Tennessee, Clemson, Kentucky, Georgia, Notre Dame. Money Coach, Vols, Clemson, Florida, Georgia, Notre Dame. Teddy, he's going with Tennessee, Clemson, Kentucky, Auburn, Duke. And Smothers likes the Gamecocks, Clemson, Kentucky, Georgia, Duke. Pete, Tennessee, Syracuse, Florida, Georgia, Notre Dame. Jim Corbett, USC, Clemson, Florida, Georgia, Duke. And the Donald, USC, Clemson, Georgia, Florida, Duke. And Pat, you gave your picks earlier, did you not?
I did, but real quick again, I am also taking the Gamecocks up there. I just think that's too many points. I'm taking Clemson over Syracuse. I went back and forth on this. We heard Lee Sterling mention he didn't know what Clemson players would have as motivation, what they have to play for. I pushed back against that. Dabo and his team coming off a loss, I expect them to win. Florida, Kentucky. I'm taking Kentucky. I do not trust Florida. I don't trust that offense. I'm taking Kentucky. Georgia, Auburn. I think Georgia covers. I want the Bulldogs, but I think it's going to be because they have defensive and special teams scores. I think that's the difference. Auburn's offense is terrible. Georgia capitalizes. Notre Dame at Duke. Give me the Irish. Duke is the feel-good story. I know. I like it. But the fact that it's only 6, give me Notre Dame. I think they win by double digits.
You want Notre Dame, you got Notre Dame. Ow. All right, there you go. Those are our picks for this week, and best of luck to me and worst of luck to everybody else, because I like to win. Apparently, unlike the United States Ryder Cup team, which is choking like a dog on a bone, down 6.5 to 1.5 after the first day. Quick recap, and then we'll welcome in MJ and George and Robbie. Birdies and bogeys and biceps around South Carolina. And today in the foursomes, the morning foursomes, John Rahm, Terrell Hatton, 4-3 over Scotty Scheffler and Sam Burns. That's a blowout. Victor Hovland, Ludwig Aberg, 4-3 over Max Homa and Brian Harmon. That's a blowout. Shane Lowry and Sepp Straka, 2-1 over Ricky Fowler and Colin Morikawa. And Rory McIlroy, Tommy Fleetwood, 2-1 over Xander Schauffele and Patrick Cantlay. So then we go to the second event of the day as they went to afternoon 4-ball, and 3 matches ended up tied. The United States did not win a match. Hovland and Hatton and Thomas and Spieth, they tied. Scheffler, Koepka, Rahm, and Hojgaard, they tied. And Homa and Clark, McIntyre and Rose, they tied. The only winning match was McIlroy and Fitzpatrick defeating Morikawa and Schauffele in a blowout, 5-3. So there you go. Let's welcome in MJ Ward live from Rome, where it's very early in the morning there. Yeah, and apparently the American teams were not hitting it straight down the middle. So we'll welcome in MJ, and then George and Robbie, you guys can jump in and take over. And George, in particular, you can pick MJ's brain on what happened over there today. But MJ, first of all, your thoughts on the way things played out today in the first 2 events of the Ryder Cup, and the way the Americans have put themselves in this big hole.
The only thing I can say, Phil, is that Luke Donald knows how to play chessboard Ryder Cup picks better than Zach Johnson. It's as simple as that. There's a number of things I could say, but suffice to say is he made the right choices, and his top players executed. Our players did not. That's really the simple, cut, dry version of it. When it all matters, you have to step up and make big shots at big times, and they did. I show you how bad Americans played. We didn't have a lead in any match until the first match of the afternoon session, and it took until the 6th hole of that match to have anybody get ahead. So it was a true beatdown, and they are truly on life support right now.
George, jump in, my man. You too, Robbie. And George, your comments and your questions, your observations and questions for MJ.
Hey, it's love the build-up, and I saw bits and pieces. I didn't watch Inline. It's going to be fun listening to MJ, but You get John Rahm, Victor Hovland, Aberg, guys not just well prepared. No question Luke Donald had a strategy that was awesome, but when the players that I just mentioned, when they roll hot, they are unbeatable. And that was the biggest problem it looked like to me is comes down to it. they just got incredibly outplayed. So that's what I got to say about that. And I would at this point, it's going to be education from here on, it looks like to me. And that's my take. Before we kick it back to MJ, I'm intrigued to hear more about the atmosphere. I'm watching it online, through the phone, a little bit on TV. But Tsunami Robbie, go ahead and you throw it in the ring.
Yeah, the Ryder Cup, one of my very favorite events. And while I am surprised that not only the morning session was a 4-0 whitewashing of the American side, what surprised me even more was in the afternoon session. I believe at one time there was the blowout with McIlroy and his partner. I think they were up 6-0. They might have been 6-up at one time before they got to that 5-3 spot. But outside of that, the Americans had leads in 2 matches, and one was tied. And 2 of the ones that ended up tied, if I'm not mistaken, came down to the 18th hole where the Americans lost 2 holes with 2 to play. So it, they just didn't hold up under the pressure. They didn't make the shots when they needed to make them. And it's not over yet. There's still a lot of golf to be played. But if I was rolling some cash on it, it would be over.
Let me ask all you guys. And MJ, I'll start with you, and we can go round table here. So, I mean, look, we know with all the matches to be played on Sunday, the singles matches, you always have a chance to come from behind. But when you look at this lineup, does America have the lineup to go head to head and close a major gap in the singles matches if it comes to that on Sunday? MJ, you start, and then George and Robbie, y'all jump in.
Well, just keep this in mind. You have 20 points left to be contested. We have to win 12 and a half of those points to secure the cup. That's a big hurdle. Let me just mention this real quick historically. I can remember going back to 87 when Nicklaus was the captain and they played the matches at Muirfield Village, and we lost for the first time on American soil. Someone needs to read the riot act to American players on how to play the final hole to close out a match. I mean, Paul Azinger, and I heard this from other people who are watching the American telecast, was speaking, I mean, almost in reverential terms about how American players are capable in closing out matches. He must have missed what took place out there because, 3 matches come to the 18th hole in the 4 balls. You have a chance to narrow the margin from, what it was 4-0 to 5-3. If you can get it to 5-3, now you're in a far different position, and you put some doubt into the Europeans' heads. But all 3 matches that came to 18, every one of them lost, and the most glaring of it was U.S. Open champion Wyndham Clark smokes a tee shot in 18. If he went any further right with his second shot, he'd be back in the States. I mean, it was so bad. And then to make matters worse, he has an opportunity because he's on the appropriate side. He missed far right. He can obviously now chip without the water. He almost chips it into the pond. I mean, it was like, can anybody make a shot when it counts? And, you have to tip your hat. I mean, I said this to you last night, Phil. Lee Trevino said this to me many years ago about Ryder Cup play. Your top horses have got to run the course. Our top horses just did not do that. And this is what it comes down to. You've got to produce points. And the bottom line of it is, despite all, our guys just didn't produce. And I have seen this show play out in Paris. I've seen this show play out in Scotland. I mean, this is almost like a repeat movie. And, people think about possibly of a comeback. I think the more likely ingredient here, you could see possibly a 17, 18, 19-point victory for the Europeans. It's we have to look at reality here and stop playing with the fantasies about what's going to possibly happen. They got beat down today really bad, and there's no other way to address that besides the fact that they were out executed today. Period.
George, as a player yourself, I mean, why do you think over all these years the Americans struggle over there when they go over there? I mean, home field advantage that much of a deal in golf as you see it?
I had the privilege of being in Europe in 1997, and that was my first trip abroad. So the Europeans have placed great value. In fact, the way the Americans look at individual achievement and majors, that's how the Europeans have looked at the Ryder Cup. And it's just my experience and my opinion that it is the greatest event, and they prepare for it ongoing. We prepare a few months in advance. We talk about it in advance, and there's no question Zach Johnson puts the work in. There's no question that man has given his all, heart, soul, and brain. And however, I'm not sure that they have past captains, other players. It's an all-in event for the Europeans. And, when you just have a different perspective. It's team in Europe, and it's individual in America. That's the biggest difference. And the people, the fans, the atmosphere. That's cool that MJ's over there. The spirit. I would love to be there just because the fans just have a different perspective. I'm not saying they're better fans than the Americans. They just have a slightly different perspective, and it seems like, the record speaks for itself. It doesn't look like they're unbeatable in Europe. How about that?
Robbie, let me ask you this. As an observer and a man with high golf intellect, do you think we Americans, we have our best players on the team? I mean, of course, you earn the points, okay? You earn the points to be on the Ryder Cup team, and there's something to be said for that. And you have a certain number of captains' choices, but I'm wondering if maybe they should look at how they do it and reduce the number of automatic qualifiers by points, and maybe have more leeway for the captain to pick maybe somebody who's not having a great year or who hasn't had a great couple of years, but somebody who might be better in this setting, might be better in the team competition, might be better playing on foreign soil. Does that make any sense?
Oh, yeah. In fact, the guy that comes to mind when you make a statement like that is somebody like Kevin Kisner. Kisner has been an absolute bulldog in match play events over the years, even though his I don't know how many tour wins he has, but it doesn't equal a Spieth or a Thomas or even Max Homa at the stage he's at, where he's won several times, or somebody like his, he just flat knows how to get out there, maybe get under somebody's skin just a little bit, and produce when you need to produce. But I don't really know what the answer is as far as a selection process, using points and then some captain's picks, and no question that everybody that we have over there is a world-class golfer. Every one of them is top-notch, but I really have to lean on what George said. I really believe that the guys in Europe that play for the European team, they live for the Ryder Cup. They judge their careers on Ryder Cup events and Ryder Cup wins and losses. And the team aspect to them, when it comes to this competition, means more than anything. Mm-hmm. And unless we get to that point to where it's more about the team and team play. And I know they're playing for their partner out there when they're in these formatted events, but it's just a little bit different. It only takes, the difference between greatness and winning and greatness and losing at that level is so small that you can get freight trained and still play pretty well, but just get run over by somebody who's playing well at that level.
MJ, if you can, I was traveling all day today, unfortunately, because of travel issues. Was just totally out of it today, but I did see a few highlights, and the crowds, the galleries, whatever you want to call it, the throngs around the greens that I happened to see the highlights from, they looked, I don't know, 8, 10, 15 deep. Can you kind of give us a feeling for the crowds and what the emotions and the noise, what all that is like on the course?
Yeah, I think the crowd influences the play. But let me just mention this and go back to what was mentioned by Robbie and George. What has happened here in the Ryder Cup is we've gotten to the point now where the home team is winning by large margins. I mean, we won convincingly at Hazeltine and at Whistling Straits, and then they won convincingly at Glen Eagles and then at Le Golf National. And unless something changes, they'll probably win again here at Marco Simone. So the home team situation has become a real dominant storyline. You have to go back to Medina when the Europeans were able to mount that tremendous situation. The fans do play a role in this, but at the end of the day, some of our guys needed a compass to find the fairways. When you're a world-class player, and I know there's pressure, but the bottom line of it is, a lot of people were talking about why Justin Thomas was selected. Well, let me tell you, he proved himself over that because he was taking on two men at the very end and almost escaped minus a putt by Hovland at the last hole. He played really well, given that Jordan was, they might as well just pull up a chair for Jordan to watch the match because he was just not in it. And, to JT's credit, they didn't win, they didn't lose, but he held on and he did what he needed to do. And I'm glad to see that Zach finally woke up and has JT in the opening match tomorrow. Just let's get this game going here. We need some emotion on the American side because some of these people were just sleepwalking. You got to give Luke, to be fair, the Europeans played at an extremely high level. How many times did John Rahm chip in? That was tremendous. The ending putt that Hovland made at 18, Rahm's eagle putt, and then Justin Rose caps it off with a 9-foot par putt to escape, with a half a point. These guys executed. And that's what it all comes down to. You've got to be able to execute. I said this to you last night, Phil. Match play is about being able to immediately respond to when somebody makes a shot. You don't have 3, 4, 5 holes to catch up. You got to do it right when it happens. And they did. And we're going to have to do that in the morning foursomes. Otherwise, the Don Meredith song is going to play very quickly tomorrow afternoon. This could get out of hand very, very quickly tomorrow unless we make a point to rally tomorrow morning.
Hey, do me a favor, too. How badly did I butcher his name? Nikolai. How does he pronounce the last name? Is it Højgaard?
No, Højgaard.
Højgaard. Okay. Not very good with my Danish there. Before we wrap it up, George, Robbie, back here in the States, or in this state, let's acknowledge the USC women ranked number 1 in the nation this week in one of the collegiate polls. And George, here we go again. They're always, it seems like, right among the best. They got a chance to win it all if they can hold it together and maybe elevate come the spring when they start, playing for championships and things like that.
Well, they have been in this position before. We've talked about it the last couple of weeks. It'll be fun because I think the upcoming year they got a lot of experience, and so they'll know how not just play at the end of the season, but what to do in between the fall. It's a long ways. It's 6-7 months out.
Yeah.
But Coach Caitlin's got plenty of experience. She's a veteran, and it is fun to see the team on top, a team in the state on top. So, yeah, and it's, in my opinion, that's one of the great pieces that is still yet to be developed is team golf in this country. And it's right here front and center. In Europe, it's been team golf literally for a century, and we're not quite there yet in America. I do think that is where major growth, and I think that's where the game needs to point, is team golf. So nothing wrong with the individual side. It's just, hey, there's a completely different dynamic. And right there where MJ is, it's fun listening to him, and glad you're there. It's really cool I know it's kind of late. You're probably kind of sleepy, but I'm going to go ahead and check out. I'll let y'all close it out. And it's been a privilege. You all tee it high, shoot them low, and next week.
Thank you, George. Always great. Robbie, thank you. We'll catch up with you next week on the progress of the little pitch and putt, the scrambler. Yes, looking forward to getting out there. Thank you, sir. And MJ, as always, great stuff from you. We appreciate you. Enjoy the rest of the Cup and your time over there in Rome, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Take care, guys. Have a good day.
You too. All right, birdies, bogeys, and biceps. George brings the birdies, I bring the bogeys, and Robbie brings the biceps every Friday night here on Sports Talk. And thanks to MJ as well. NC State and Louisville playing in Raleigh, scoreless in the second quarter. Pat, great job. Josh, great job. Final thoughts, Pat?
Not a whole lot here. Hoping for good games tomorrow between the Qs and the Tigers, as well as the Vols and the Gamecocks. Love that we'll be able to start the day with in-state football and cap off the night.
Yep, Smitty will be in Knoxville. Of course, I'm here in Syracuse, and we'll be covering for you on Saturday. High school scoreboard coming up at 10:05. We'll see you then.
Someone will be right with you. The point.
WQXL Columbia, W264DF.
From the Bart Fireside Studio, the solution for keeping you warm this winter.
This is 107 The Point.